Hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining this afternoon for another Data Lab community webinar. My name is Stephen Thompson. I'm the Events and Community Manager at the Data Lab. Today's session forms part of our Data and AI in Health Month, which we've been running throughout October. And October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month as well, so quite a timely webinar for us to be running. Today's session the way today's session will run is in a couple of minutes, I'll hand you over to our guest speaker, Professor Gerald Lip, who will speak for around 30 minutes before we open up to questions. If you do have any questions, make sure to post them in the Q&A, which you should see at the bottom of your Zoom portal, and we'll get to those at the end. We should have plenty of time for questions, so we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. Just make sure you put them in the Q&A and not the chat, just so that we make sure we don't lose them. Most of you who are here will probably be familiar with the Data Lab community, and you may have already heard me reel off the benefits of joining 100 times before, but just in case you haven't joined or you're new to the community, the Data Lab community is a kind of free online community for anyone who's interested in data and AI, whether you're a student, a professional, or just generally interested in keeping up to date with what's going on. We run regular events every month, in person and online. We have a mentorship scheme and loads of other benefits of joining. It's completely free to join, and you can do so by signing up, either scanning the QR code, which you should see on your screen, or if not, or you can't scan that, just head to community.thedatalab.com and you can sign up for free. So just as a bit of a brief introduction to today's session, as I mentioned, this month in the community, we've been focusing on the intersection between data and AI and healthcare. So I'm delighted to have Professor Gerald Lip joining us this afternoon. Professor Lip is a consultant radiologist at NHS Grampian. He is the president of the British Society of Breast Radiology, and he's also Scotland's first head of AI in medicine at the University of Aberdeen, in line with his work integrating artificial intelligence into healthcare. So I think you would all agree that we would struggle to find someone more qualified to talk to us about the pioneering work currently going on with the use of AI in breast cancer care. So during this session, Professor Lip will take us on our journey through the past 7 years of research and implementation of AI in diagnosing breast cancer. We'll hear about some of the challenges in implementing this innovative technology in the NHS, and we'll also cover many of the questions that have kind of come up throughout the process. So on that note, I won't take up any more of your time, and I'll pass you over to Gerald, and I'll see you at the end for the Q&A.
Stephen, thank you so much for that very kind introduction and the invitation from the Data Lab as well. I'm just going to share the screen straight away and ensure that while I do the chat there again, and just checking if you can see the standard screen okay, Stephen, if that's fine to go,
Yeah,
then I'll
that's
just crack
coming through
on.
now. It looks good.
Brilliant. Yeah, so it's the end of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we've got data, AI, as well as healthcare, all intersecting with this theme from the Data Lab this month. And it all ties in really well because it's all about breast cancer and AI. And AI is everywhere. You're going to see it in the newspapers. There's talk of AI and prostate in yesterday's newspaper, and other sort of national initiatives coming through as well. So on our journey in breast screening, we have this involves women who are aged between 50 to 70 in the UK, and that's 2.2 million women who have breast screening. And the mammograms are usually read by 2 human beings. And then if there's a disagreement, it goes to a third human being. And that's the real question. Will we be reading mammograms in the standard way in future, left and right, with 2 humans in future? Or could we have AI as part of that process? Especially if you think about it, as I said, 2 million women every year in the UK. That's 2 times 2, 4 million reads. And within these 4 million mammograms that we're reading, those cancers could be anywhere. They could be spread out anywhere in that pile of mammograms. An average reader has 1 session a week, which is like myself, and we would read 5,000 mammograms. How many cancers do you think are in those 5,000 mammograms for a screening population? So it's the incidence is 6 to 7 in 1,000. So we're looking for 30 to 36 cancers among 5,000 mammograms that we read throughout a year, or 2.2 million across the whole of the UK. I think that's where technology comes in, and that's the hope of AI, and that's been our work for the past many years in the world of breast imaging and AI, where we're trying to find an AI that can say, hey, these areas are suspicious, let's put them in this pile, and the rest of them are normal. So that way it helps with workflow, it helps with cancer detection, and breast radiologists and breast readers, breast radiographers, we are definitely having a sort of recruitment issue, and there's less and less of us coming through. So a trip to the past, and if you go beyond the 7 years, so say 10, 15 years ago, on the left side of the screen, we had CAD, which was computer aided detection. And CAD was great because it was sensitive. It was picking everything up, but it was not specific. If you look and see, you have triangles everywhere on the left side of the image. So it was saying there's something there, we're not sure, but it was marking everything. Whereas now with AI on the right, you're getting much more specificity. So to data people, sensitivity, specificity, we want more specific if we can, because it reduces the number of false positives. And with the AI models that we have now, we are much more specific. We usually identify one or two areas. We can give you a percentage score usually, and that says whether it's suspicious, and even characterization of the lesion that we're looking at. Why is it suspicious? So a bit of that black box explainability. And some baseline facts. The AI models are fixed. They are CE marked products. So CE marked, UKCA marked, or FDA marked. And these AI models are fixed versions. They don't learn. So it's not when you say, oh, I've seen a mistake here, or you've overcalled this and you've missed this cancer. You can't tell the AI that. It's all a fixed model. And then you tell the company, and the company takes the feedback and trains more data into the model and releases your next version. And current market models are all CNN based. So these are computer vision models that are predictable. They give you the same result every time. If I show you the mammogram, it's going to give me the same mammogram result every time. It's not like those large language models, the ChatGPT versions that have hallucinations. And currently, most AI models can only look at the present images, the mammograms that are on the screen. They aren't able to look in the past, past mammograms to compare. So as a result, they will call back a bit more than human beings will, and that's just the process, because they can only look at the images. They don't have all the extra information. They don't have clinical information, and they can't look at prior images as a comparison currently. But companies are developing models that are able to look back soon. So some of our early research was actually going straight away to the patients and the participants in screening and saying, would you be pro AI? And as early as 2021, well before AI was really in the big screen, big sort of scene, we had up to 80% of women in our survey replying that they were pro AI. And the majority would want a human in the loop. And for us, it's a natural fit in screening because most European and UK programs have two humans who read. So you would still be able to remove one of the humans from the process, and there will still be a human in the loop. It's very important in any research to get the involvement of members of the public. And I would credit that the Data Lab and the Scottish AI Alliance has done a lot of work in Scotland, for instance, with the Children's Parliament, reaching out and asking for opinions of AI. And we've done the same here in Aberdeen. We've reached out to the Science Centre, as you can see, and we've shown fracture AIs as well. And basically, everyone's life is going to be involved with healthcare and AI. In breast cancer, 1 in 7 women will get breast cancer in their lifetime, whatever age they are, whether they're your mom or your sis or your grandma. It affects all populations. And that's where PPI is so important, to get the involvement and understanding of the public. I ask our professionals as well. So through the British Society, we send surveys out to breast screening professionals, because you have that worry: will I lose my job to an AI? Will I have be replaced in this way? But actually, because of the stress of work, the level of burnout in the profession, most people had a positive view of saying AI could come and help us. It could help augment us and make us better as staff and radiologists in our work. And the important part of that was that they wanted explainability. They needed a black box, a source region of interest, a bounding box to show us where. And most participants were accepting that, said, well, we'll take one reader away, we'll make it a bit more efficient, and we can still have AI with us. So I'm going to launch straight into prospective studies, because there have been a lot of retrospective studies looking at stuff. And in fact, in our 7 years, as we were introduced earlier, we did a large retrospective study, which I'll talk about a bit later. But prospective studies is where it's at the moment, because that's getting real world evidence with cohorts. An example here is from Priam, which was a study in Germany, and that was 400,000 over women. And I would call this the Everything Everywhere All at Once AI, where they separated two groups, one that had AI available and the other that said, I don't want to use the AI. And they were able to show that the group that was AI enhanced or augmented, used AI, was able to detect more cancers. There's a summary slide coming at the end of this where I'll show you all the real numbers. The Maasai trial is world famous now, and Dr. Lang, who led it, has spoken very eloquently of what she has done in that process. So this was a prospective, randomized control trial. And what she did there was she had one group, which was your control group, using the two humans who read, and then the other group, the intervention group, where it was one human and one AI for most of the cases. And in that group, they picked up more cancers. 28%, 29% more cancers in the human and AI group compared to the two human group. So very good results there. And if you think about it, the two human group had to read mammograms twice, whereas the one human and one AI group only read the mammograms once by a human. So already there was a reduction in workload. So more time for coffee, more time for Danish cinnamon rolls or whatever. And this is a result as you see here. You have Priam with over 400,000 participants, cancer detection increased by almost 18%. Maasai, cancer detection up 29%, 44% decrease, efficiency savings, meaning well, even if a radiologist doesn't read, they're still there. They have to do the biopsies and ultrasounds. So it releases us as clinicians to go and do the additional, more human-facing work rather than reading normal mammograms. As I've said, 6 in 1,000. So there's over 900 normal mammograms. So you can decrease that amount of normal mammogram work and really focus us as clinicians and specialists on the cases that matter. That actually gives you professional satisfaction as well. Screen Trust CAD was from Stockholm. There was a Hungarian study as well. And our little study in Scotland and Aberdeen was Gemini, where we had about 11,000 women. And we used that as a safety net study. So when we finished the reading of the two humans and we said, I think this scan is normal, we activated the AI and said, is there anything else you want us to look at? And the AI said, have a look at this area again. And just by having that sort of extra safety check, we were able to pick up 10% more cancers in the month in 2023. We again did a simulation of the workload decrease, and we again similar to Maasai, we had a workflow ability to reduce by 36% by using this normals pathway again. So here's an example from Gemini. This is a left and right sided MLO imaging of the breast. A woman who's about 50 years old. And if we talk about breast density, this is a very dense breast tissue. Then the white stuff is dense glandular tissue, and the black stuff is fatty tissue. So you can see that there's a lot of the white stuff there. And sometimes cancers can hide among this white stuff that makes it hard to see. We had classed this after reading it as normal, but we turned on the AI. As you can see, there's the word CAD available in the top there, and it's highlighted this area in the circle there. So on this imaging, looking at this presentation on your phone or computer, you're not going to see that level of detail. But on a medical monitor, if you zoom it up, you can see these tiny little white dots. So those tiny white dots, we did a biopsy. We did say, well, we better call this one back just in case. And that turned out to be a high-grade ductal cancer with about 3 millimeters of invasion. In the UK screening program, which is 3 years long, 3 years intervals, so that means you have your screening at 50, your next screening is when you're 53. A tumor like this, which was a grade 3, would double in size and definitely be a lump by the time you came back in 3 years. So this was a very good pickup with the aid and help of AI for us. We did release interim results and we got some pretty good feedback and publicity from that. And that really helped fuel the drive in the UK to say, well, we need a bigger trial, we need a national trial. And I'll talk about that in the next few slides. So real life use, has anyone actually said, well, no more trials, I just want to use AI and can we use it? Unfortunately, not in the NHS, but in Denmark, in Copenhagen, Ilse Weibert's group have started using AI, and this is what they did. They did the retrospective study, they did a prospective study, and then they did an implementation study. So this is the third phase already of moving up the preparation levels for AI. So before implementation, as you can see in the middle of the screen, 60,000 women, cancer detection rate was 7. After the AI was turned on, so they did it the same as the mass size style, one human and one AI after they turned it on. Recall rate dropped, meaning number of women they call back, but they picked up more cancers. Their false positives, meaning things that they call back but turned out to not be cancer, also dropped. Their reading workload, because they had moved to one AI and one human pathway, 33% less work. So what did happens there? You get better turnaround time. Women get their results sooner. They come straight to investigations if they have something found on AI and humans sooner as well. Satisfaction increases and staff as well. Copenhagen had a real staffing issue because a fully trained breast radiologist who works in that area, they were very hard to recruit. So by using AI, they sort of partly solved the recruitment problem, created a more sustainable workforce, and that has benefits for women and patients as a result of that. So future prospective studies, and this is where I'll talk about the EDIF trial. EDIF trial is a UK-based trial where we're looking at nearly 700,000 women across the country. Professor Fiona Gilbert and Professor Sean Taylor Phillips are the lead investigators. I'm privileged to be a co-investigator with them, covering the UK as well as Scotland. And we intend to enroll a good number of women across 30 centers in the UK. What's different is that if you look at the previous studies, they're all one AI and one center. Whereas here, we're trying to do 4 or 5 at least different AI companies across a central platform, because I think this is the pragmatic future approach where you're going to have multiple different AIs and you're going to have to see which one works well for your population. An AI that works well in Aberdeen may not work as well in London, which has a different mix of ethnicity, a different sort of grouping of people. So this trial has been launched. We are going to start the IT and information governance and data protection and all that kind of paperwork. That actually takes a long time, unfortunately. But once that's all sort of being in process, then hopefully in 2026 we start recruiting the first patients into this national trial across the UK. Is it just screening mammals? Because you're hearing a lot about screening where you're going, isn't it in the NHS elsewhere? And yes, we do use AI in other areas in the NHS. Breast ultrasound. So we are using it, and there are a few centers using breast ultrasound with AI at the moment. And using that tool, we are trying to see if we can say AI says these are benign lesions. So no touch, no biopsy lesions. So that's one of the areas we're doing because most of us are trained breast radiologists are very good at finding cancers already on ultrasound. So we're using different ways to leverage AI. Most of the mammograms you hear about are 2D mammograms, which is the 4 views that you take when you come for breast screening. But in the US and elsewhere in the world, and also in the symptomatic one-stop breast clinics that people come to, we're seeing more 3D mammograms, where it's like a mini CT scan taken by the mammogram machine across an arc, and you have up to 100 to 200 little slices of mammogram images. And the companies that have doing that are also bringing 3D AI tools. And the colleagues in Leeds and colleagues in Wales are pioneering this work here with 3D mammogram AI. AI in MRI is difficult because of multiple different modalities, so we don't see as much of that. And some people are using the 2D AI in the one-stop breast clinics as well, particularly Dr. Sharma in Leeds, where we're trying to see if we can triage women better in clinics. Say, well, actually, the AI, as soon as you're having a mammogram, is detecting a tumor, we might move you into a biopsy slot in the clinic rather than have you wait a long time for your clinic appointment. AI is moving to other areas of the breast world, including into pathology, and because pathology at the moment is slides on a microscope, but a lot of centers are starting to move towards digital pathology. So their slides are then scanned onto the same sort of picture systems that we use in X-ray. And by doing that, you are actually helping the pathologist because it does automatic counting, automatic sort of classification, There's benefits hopefully for prediction and prognostication in future with use of AI in pathology as well. But there are some key considerations and caveats, and there's reasons why we're not using it fully and widely in the NHS at the moment. There needs to be post-market surveillance coming in. So if AI changes, and I'll talk about this afterwards, we need a strategy for dealing. So certain AIs only train on certain software or certain hardware or different machines. So if you say change all your machines to a different manufacturer, will that AI still work on those machines? Provenance and bias of where does that AI come from? Where is it trained? And I'll speak on this in the next slide. How are we going to work with humans in the future? Ethical concerns of use of energy is more with large language models than with conventional AI. Procurement and costing. If it's going to cost more than a human, then where's the value in using the AI? So it's lots of questions still coming, which are being dealt with across the UK in different institutions. But post-market surveillance is probably one of the key ones. We need to have a way of measuring that AI continues to work. So this was one of the first papers in that 7 years of working that we talked about earlier with Dr. De Vries and Professor Anderson in the University of Aberdeen health data science team. And it was about performance drift of AI. So, and that comes into the theme of algorithmic drift. And here's a slide that shows it here, which is best example. We had a retrospective data set, and you could do your standard retrospective study, which a lot of people have done, and say, well, look, AI works really well in this black box. But we had a little Easter egg in the black box of our data, which was a software change where we changed the quality of the images from normal to sharp. So the images were much sharper to see. The human performance on these machines didn't change, but the AI performance did change, and it required recalibration and rethresholding. So straight away, with that word of algorithmic or data drift, if you change the presentation of the images, you're getting a change in the AI performance. And that brings in that whole discussion on post-market surveillance and continuous measuring of the AI performance. You don't want to be installing something in healthcare in detecting breast cancer in women in the UK and then have an unexpected change in its performance. So we have to have ways of measuring, because if once we deploy AI at scale, it's going to be deployed at large numbers. It's not going to be um, one row clinician or one person who's not doing things right. It will be an AI at scale that might change. So, and the thing is that if we move to one human and one AI from two humans, you can't just turn it off because you don't have the resource if you've taken that resource away. So it's a series of balance and checks and balances that we need to put in terms of how we do monitoring. So this is the example of 4 different machines, and you can see that the line is pretty steady, and then there's a jump up, and that was the change in performance. That was solved by doing rethresholding or recalibration of the AI. But again, you need to have alert systems that show you that that's going to change. So ethics and bias is another key. How did the AI learn? What was the data set that was used? Was it mainly a Western data set? Was it a data set of different ethnicities as well? Were the protected characteristics that we sort of look for, especially in our enshrined in our laws, sort of looked at with the data sets that are being used? And also the consequences then, if you're using a data set that's only trained on a certain population, will it bias against other populations? We've seen headlines of how certain interview software has been used to sort of bias and pick a certain type of person that they want to recruit. I think that's the sort of cold war now of AI CVs versus AI CV checkers that's going out there in the non-medical world that I know of, and that is really worrying of because then again, where is that data set that's checking the CVs coming from and trained? And the importance of big data is really important because data needs to be good. If and that's why mammography and breast cancer has been at the lead of this discussion, because mammograms, you see something, you say, I think that's a cancer or not, and actually you do have the result because the women come back and we do a biopsy. So that's why we've been leading the field in radiology, with 80% of AI algorithms being radiology based in the FDA, and because of the good quality of the data we have. And that's going to spread. And the lessons that we learn in radiology or the problems that we have encountered, hopefully we will hurdle over and then teach the other ologies as they come into AI, into the world of AI as well. In my education role, and I was just speaking to our first year medical students and welcoming them to medical school yesterday, I also spoke to them about the importance of having a really good foundation. This is a work by Eric Topol, and for someone who's a bit more experienced like myself, I've been trained prior to AI, and I have a very good base foundation knowledge and clinical skill. The AI actually really helps me because it augments me. I know when a prompt comes, how to deal with it, and I also know how to create prompts and make myself more efficient. The Gemini study that we did had quite a good number of false positives, but because I was experienced, I was able to say, actually, of say the 1,000 cases that you flagged up, I'm only going to call back 50, which is what we did. And of those 50, we found another 10 or 11 cancers from that group. But that requires settled knowledge that's within. And for the medical students of today who are using a lot of chat GPT and large language models, I say to them, you've got to get your foundation right. In fact, don't use AI if you can, or use AI with flashcards or training. So I think AI enhanced teaching and the method of us learning in this new AI future has got to change. You don't have the old style of teaching anymore, but it's a new way. But build that foundation of knowledge first, so that we don't never skill, but we continue to build and skill and create those foundational layers. So next steps. Beyond that, you also have the linkages now because everything's digital. You got electronic health records that are digital. You got imaging that's digital. You got pathology digital. You can start training really large world models to look at better prediction and prognostication. And you can say to some women, well, actually, your mammogram, based on what we're seeing, and you should come back every year for extra mammograms. Or if you have a cancer, based on the subtype of the cancer that we're seeing from pathology and from almost the imaging guided biopsy that we're doing, we think that this is the correct chemo or the type of treatment that you should have, which will be evidence and built on this AI foundation. And this is just another world model example where you can pull in PubMed, you can pull in articles, you can pull in the electronic health record into building a really large world model to try and find nuances in disease. Like for instance, we know now, but this is through many years of education or research, that if you are overweight, you have high risk of breast cancer. If you have genetic factors or certain changes, you have high risk of breast cancer. But sometimes there are insights that we don't know, and it could be that AI was another tool that we can use to find linkages. So we're building data sets. The data sets being built in Cambridge and London to try and create more information for early prediction and diagnosis and move further in this world of personalization of care. It's not a one-size-fits-all NHS, it's a one-size-fits-you NHS that I would hope to work forward to in the future. So it doesn't happen alone. I'm just one member of a very large cog of wheels of people, particularly my colleagues in University of Aberdeen and the innovation teams in NHS Grampian and our small and medium, our commercial partners. And that, I think, is me at the end of this lesson. I look forward to checking the Q&A and then having some answers and chat after this as well. And Stephen, are you back there again?
I am here, yeah, thank you.
Yes, I'm going to do stop sharing there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Gerald. There was a lot of information in there and all like super interesting. I think it was kind of incredible that you mentioned. I think it was a 10% increase in cancer detections when you switched on the AI, which is pretty incredible. We've had quite a few questions coming in so far, and if anybody, if you do have questions, please do pop them in the Q&A and we'll try to get to them. We've got a bit of time here to go through some questions. I guess one that's come in from Craig around the point you raised around kind of like what figuring out when the right point is to kind of deploy it at scale. You mentioned that, once you use AI at scale, it's kind of hard to scale that back again. By doing that, you would kind of remove one of the human scanners from the process, and then if something changes, obviously that's a big change across the country. So like the question is, how do you know when the AI is ready to be scaled, and like what are you looking for to make that decision?
I think it's that part of the implementation pathway, and we have spoken about that earlier. And what we do now is we're doing calibration. So we do a retrospective calibration, and then we do what we call silent running. So we run it silently for a while, make sure that it's working fine. And then the key aspect is that post-market surveillance. So for us in breast screening, we use a recall rate as an indirect measure, recall rate being the number of women we call back when we read the mammograms. If you keep yourself between a 4 to 7% range of the mammograms calling back, then you know you're okay. So if the AI itself keeps in that same range, and if it maybe moves 1 or 2 standard deviations out of that range, it should trigger an alert. What we would do then is do that root cause analysis and say, where is it? What's going on here? Is it a machine specific or is it software specific? So it's important to have version control of your software, version control of the machines, and then any changes that are coming in uh, be told to us, or we know about the change before we put it in. Generally, we are look. I'm speaking to colleagues who have put AI in mammals in Stockholm as well as in Copenhagen, and they said that whenever something happens, they change one of the machines or one of the sites first, and then they monitor for stability. And then if it changes after that, they either recant that upgrade or they continue and change everything. So I would say don't do it all at once, but do it sector by sector or site by site. We've had cases in fracture AI in Northern Ireland, which a colleague of mine has spoken on, and they had a really good working fracture AI, but then they had the next version, which was supposed to be better, but it started calling a lot of stuff back, and they could see the workload increasing from A&E coming into radiology, and straight away again they had to go back, put it back to the previous version, then run the new version in Ghost again, and then do a bit of rethresholding and recalibration of the AI. I hope that sort of helps answer that question.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think somewhat related was you mentioned towards the beginning that the AI models that you use are CE marked. So the actual AI model itself is fixed and it doesn't learn kind of on the fly, I guess. And we've
Yeah,
kind of heard about that CE marking with regards to like physical pieces of equipment in the past. And I've kind of heard that the process is quite long to get that CE mark. So with the AI, is it the case that when the model changes, you have to start again with the approval process, or is there a kind of a different way of working that?
I think it's a versioning of the process, version control. So CE marked is software as AI as a software device is a class 2 medical device usually, and it goes through the standard CE marking process. But when they do the next version, they just build on the iteration of the previous version. So I don't think that the approvals are too onerous, but I do know it takes a while, and it is a significant investment on companies when they keep bringing new things on.
Great, thank you. So yeah, we've got a lot of questions here, so we'll get through these. So where are we? So yeah, so Laura Ewing was asking, what role do you think AI could play beyond imaging, for example, in treatment planning, genetics, and other areas?
Oh, that's a whole other half an hour lecture that I do give. And that's all on treatment personalization as well as prediction of pathways. I've seen really good data from colleagues who have mammograms, and they run their AI prediction software on it. So it reads the mammogram and it says, actually, these people need to come back instead of every 3 years, next every 1 year or 2 years. And they have run this prediction software where I look at the image and there's nothing there. And then a year later, a cancer is there. So already we're getting to that stage of having a better prediction, and I would hope that we could subselect a cohort that would have additional screening or additional tests, MRIs or contrast mammograms for that cohort. He has done this already in Stockholm, and his cancer detection rate went from 6 in 1,000 to 56 in 1,000 in this controlled study. So it's like, whoa. So let's see what's happening there. Personalization of treatment. So breast cancer is not just breast cancer. It's uh, we kind of put it into 4 different subtypes at the moment, which is based on something called endocrine receptor or HER2 receptor status. But if you really look deeper beyond the 4 subtypes that we talk about commonly, there are probably 300 to 400 different subtypes. And with that, there are many new medications coming on. You're getting beyond your standard chemotherapy, you're getting this new wave of something called immunotherapy. And it's which one works best where. And this is where I can see that personalization and subtype management of tumors that we have detected is going to come in with AI.
Brilliant, thank you.
Mm.
And Emma is asking, are your team working towards using AI without a second clinical reader? And what is that something you would want to do? And if so, what would it take to get there?
So in the UK, we are governed as screening people by the UK National Screening Committee, and you'll see that the UK NSC is getting a lot of pressure with prostate screening in the newspapers. And it's the same thing with breast. We did say, can we just go straight? And they said, no, you need a trial. And that trial is that EDIF trial, which I showed in the earlier slides of 700,000 women. So that's going to run from 2020 now till probably 2028. And once we have results from that trial, it probably will be a yes, go ahead, or a no, not enough evidence yet. So that's the UK picture. But across the world, I know of places in Australia, as well as Middle East for sure, and Scandinavia that are already using AI as a second reader.
And you'd mentioned at the beginning that a lot of the women who had been kind of kind of asked about their opinions on using AI in this way were keen for a kind of human in loop aspect of it. Do you know
Yeah.
like how that plays into kind of decisions that are made in the future?
Yeah, it is. We have as part of the EDIT trial, we have a strong patient involvement with at least 5 patient representatives on our trial group. In the Gemini evaluation that we did in 2023 in Aberdeen, we also had this was an opt-out study. So we said to women, we are going to run your images through an AI, and we had permission forms and we had things up there. But if you don't want to, you let us know, you opt out. And of about 18,000 women who did receive a letter, there was 127 who opted out. So that was pretty
Quite
good.
a small percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
quite a small percentage. And they did write their reasons. And some of them said, I don't want Dr. Lip to lose his job, so to a computer. So I was like, that's really nice. But I want to test the computer. So, but there are some who are like, no, no AI. I don't want AI. And there's definitely a group of socioeconomic and ethnicity status that do not want to engage with AI as well. And we need to dig more into those areas as well to see why. Where there's a suspicion of technology, or actually some of the sort of bad news that's coming from all these chat GPTs, which is different from healthcare AI. I like to think I'm on the side of the angels with the healthcare AI rather than the other side.
Yeah, well, I guess you said it's a closed model that doesn't learn based on what it's got, so it's quite different to an LLM. And I guess what you said there kind of brings us on to a question from Linda, which mentioned that the anchor breast imaging dataset that's being built at the moment, or you mentioned this that's being built at the moment. Do you know what's in place to ensure that there's a large ethnic variety of images involved in that?
So the anchor data set that we're being built is all the women who attend screening in the Grampian region from 2016 to 2025. And Aberdeen tends to be, screening invites everybody. So we don't discriminate, we invite everyone. And about 90%, we got about 85 to 90% uptake in the north of Scotland because it's quite a settled population. So I think we have good coverage there, but we are hoping to link to the ethnicity databases as well as link to socioeconomic databases to ensure that we have the correct spread and that we are covering everyone.
Brilliant, thank you.
Mm.
Um, so there was a question from Malcolm around, do you tell the patient whether their cancer has been detected by AI? But from what you said already, I imagine that's already part of the discussions that you're having.
Yeah, for the EDIF trial, for the Gemini evaluation, we did tell the women that we had said this was normal and we picked yours as an extra safety net. And they were uniformly, obviously, very grateful and happy about that. The EDIF trial, I think every woman will know that they are part of this trial. It will be up there and they have the opt out as well. And I think because of the way it's intertwined, it'll be one human and one AI. It's not that it's the AI detects it or the human detects it. If you look at the overlap, human detects 90%, AI detects 90%. The combination of the two detect 100%. So you can't really separate it out. whether it's
Yeah,
one or the other, but it's the AI effect. So we're seeing whether the human and AI arm picks up more than the two human arm.
yeah, working kind of as a team.
Yes.
And Malcolm's asked, do you think that the workload reduction that you'll see will kind of result in more enthusiasm for people to become radiographers in the field? Or from the other side, do you think it'll be more difficult to recruit as people see that it's a profession that may be seen as redundant?
I think there's a natural worry about that, and I do get asked that a lot, saying, "What if I don't make my 5,000 a year?" And I say to them, "I don't think it's going to be that way. I think it's going to be a new way of maybe 3,000 with AI a year rather than 5,000." So not to fixate on that number. The other aspect is that everyone gets to level up because you're not reading normal mammograms anymore. You are going to be leveled up into other roles where you might do ultrasound or you have more biopsy or intervention. And I think that that's the way of the future. It's less boring. So in fact, more people might want to do it because some people are put off by saying, "I got to read so many mammograms a year. It's just tedious." And I say, "Well, I'm going to have less for you to read now, and you're going to have AI, so it's sexy."
And Craig's asking, does the current research acknowledge or consider any potential problems around kind of overdiagnosis using AI?
Yes, it does because a lot of it is looking at the subtype and the grade of the tumor that comes from AI. And so far, we have seen that the AI is picking up the ones that are not overdiagnosis, so the ones that are higher grade or more invasive type of cancers. And it seems to be working pretty well in dense breast tissue as well. So the women who have tumors that are masked. The overdiagnosis ones are where it's picking up stuff that will never kill you. So you have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Grade 1 is a very slow growing, grade 3 is a very fast growing. You want to be picking up more of the grade 3s than the grade 1s. And proportionally, we're seeing from systematic reviews that it is picking up more of the ones that matter, not the overdiagnosis ones.
Right, thank you. So we've got a few questions left that we'll try and get through. We've got sort of another 5-10 minutes left.
Sure.
So Deborah Bratta is asking, in the slides you'd mentioned the sample size in one of the tests you've done. Deborah Bratta is asking, why did it drop from sort of 60,700 women to sort of 58,000 in the evaluation slide? Is there a reason for that drop?
Oh, this is a data lecture, isn't it? So it's very good.
People are spotting the details.
Well picked out there. Let me see. The 60,000 and the 58,000 is before and post implementation. So it's temporal. It's 6 months before and 6 months after. So it's not the same group. It's a
Right,
consecutive
okay.
group. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And then June and Edwin, who are joining together, have asked, may they know the AI algorithm that was used in the slide about the jump-off recall rate? Is it a 2D CNN or more than that?
It was a 2D CNN tool from a company called Chiron Medical Technologies, and that was an old version, obviously, and it's now changed to a different version of that tool. But it's not just this company, it's other companies that we are seeing similar sort of variations, sometimes with software, sometimes with hardware as well. If you want to look up, Dr. Friedrich Strand has done work on this in Stockholm, where he has tried 3 different machines and different software versions as well with 2 different AI companies. And again, he's able to show variations across different combinations.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've got James Steele here is asking, thanks, Gerald, great presentation. The algorithmic drift that you detected during Gemini is very interesting and underscores the importance of robust trials and the volatile nature of AI when exposed to external influences. How do you plan to manage this at a much larger scale during the Edith trial?
So the first thing is that the companies that are coming in will be CE marked companies that have been battle tested already. So the one that I showed you from the German study, the one from the Swedish studies, they're all going to be our partners in this national AI trial. So they have been out in the wild for a while. Because if you want a lab one that hits real life first time in this trial, it's not going to work. So we're picking sort of ones that pass our test set and evaluation criteria before they enroll in the national trial. With regards, and the other thing we have is a clinical management center that will manage all the results that come through, and a data monitoring committee as well. So the data monitoring committee will look and see if there's any variations that are unexplainable and then intervene if necessary within the trial.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Emma's asking, how do you envisage transitioning this from research to commercial implementation?
So that's the exact reason for this NIHR and National Screening Council sponsored AI trial in the UK, and it's basically saying we need to know and we want to do this 3-year study over a large population, and it's powered such to get those numbers to give us the results. The other aspect is if you look at other parts of the world, they've done the standard pathway. So they've done a retrospective study, they've done a prospective study, and then based on those results, they've gone straight in and they said, well, we're using AI now. And they've been successful. I'm only hearing good things or success from the other centers that have introduced it already, but they have done their due diligence. They have done their retrospective and prospective. We're a bit more cautious in the UK. We have a very large program, and it's a significant responsibility. So I fully understand why the UK National Screening Council has taken this approach. And well, we will be face to face with AI as part of this trial for the next 2 to 3 years, whether in Scotland or the rest of the UK. So fingers crossed. Let's see how it turns out.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Gerald. I guess just to wrap up, I guess obviously this is the Data Lab community, and we've got a lot of people in here who are data and AI, experts, professionals. If anybody wants to kind of get in touch, or are you ever looking for kind of collaboration or anything along those lines? If there is anything like that, is there a way that people could engage with the research, or is
Of
that
course, yeah. I think I just tend to use the professional channels on LinkedIn, and when we have PhD posts and postdocs, we tend to put it through there. Our existing team, particularly Professor Leslie Anderson with the Interdisciplinary Institute at University of Aberdeen, there are often multiple opportunities coming through there. The anchor set is in creation, and once that links through, we might try and look at more collaborations with international groups that are developing their own algorithms. So that's sort of the growth area I see, and it's all about data. It's the data is gold, and really important, and that's the key aspect of that. And data science, I think, is really where it's at for the future. And you guys are in the right place. And if the right project comes, we can all work together. I hope so.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Gerald. It's been really interesting to hear you speak and answer the questions. Appreciate you taking the time to come along. I know you're a very busy man with a lot of things going on. So yeah, really appreciate you spending just under an hour with us today. So I think we'll wrap up there, and thank you again for coming along, Gerald. For anybody in the community or who's kind of keen to see what else was going on next month, throughout November, we'll be focusing on data visualization in the community. We've got loads of webinars and events coming up throughout the month. We've also recently announced our data visualization competition, which is focusing on climate change. So if you want to get involved in that, there's some information coming through newsletters and things, so you should see that coming into your inboxes soon. Otherwise, as usual, just check out the community.thedatalab.com for everything that's going on and coming up over the next few weeks. And thank you all again for joining. Yeah, thanks again, Gerald, and hopefully we'll keep in touch and see you soon.
Thank you very much. We'll see you again.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.